आज हम क्वांटिटेटिव टेक्निक्स फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर MBA ईयर 2024-25 रेगुलर एग्जामिनेशन क्वेश्चंस डिस्कस करने वाले हैं, स्पेशली रेफरेंस टू शॉर्ट क्वेश्चंस। सो ये क्वेश्चंस दिया हुआ है। क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 है डिफाइन मीडियन एंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशंस से लेके व्हाट आर द डिफरेंट क्यू डिसिप्लिन्स, ये सब क्वेश्चन हम लोग आज डिस्कस करेंगे। ये क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 है, पढ़ लेते हैं। डिफाइन मीडियन ऑफ ए डिस्ट्रीब्यूशंस, गिव वन एग्जांपल ऑफ इट्स। सो पॉइंट नंबर 1, median is the medial value of a data set when it is arranged in ascending or descending orders. Point number 2, median value is a measure of central tendency that separate the higher half from the lower half of the data. So यहाँ पे median का example दिया हुआ है। So median of 2, 3, 4 is 3. This is the answer for this particular examples. So इस तरह आपको 2 marks question के लिए मैक्सिमम 2 से लेके 3 पॉइंट तक लिखना है। देन क्वेश्चन नंबर 1B, व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय कोफिशिएंट ऑफ वेरिएशंस। सो पॉइंट नंबर 1, इन स्टैटिस्टिक्स द कोफिशिएंट ऑफ वेरिएशन फॉर्मूला that is known as shortly known as CV or denoted as CV, also known as relative standard deviations, which is shortly known as RSD, is a standardized measure of dispersion of a probability distributions or frequency distributions. Point number 2, when the value of coefficient of variation is lower, it means that the data has less variabilities and high stabilities. So यहाँ पे उसका फॉर्मूला दिया हुआ है, coefficient of variation equals to standard deviations divided by mean into 100%. The next is question number 1C, what do you mean by probable errors? So इस क्वेश्चन को इस तरह से लिखना है पॉइंट वाइज। प्रोबेबल एरर इज ए मेजर ऑफ द पोटेंशियल रेंज ऑफ एरर इन ए मेजरमेंट रिप्रेजेंटिंग द अमाउंट दैट कैन बी एडेड और सब्सट्रैक्टेड फ्रॉम ए सेंट्रल वैल्यू टू क्रिएट एन इंटरवल within which there is a 50% probability that the true value lies. Point number 2, it is a particular use in statistics to determine the reliability of a simple statistic such as correlations coefficients. And point number 3, यहाँ पे फॉर्मूला दिया हुआ है प्रोबेबल एरर का, that is known as denoted as P equals to 0.6745 into 1 minus r square whole divided by square root of n. So here r stand for coefficient of correlations and n stand for number of observations. Question number 1D, define correlations. So यहाँ पे फिर भी आपको repeatedly point wise लिखना है। Correlation is a statistical measure that describe the strength and the direction of linear relationship between two variables, indicating the extent to which they move together. Point number 2, a correlation coefficients of +1 indicate the perfect positive linear relationship. Point number 3, a correlation coefficient of -1 indicate the perfect negative linear relationship. Last point, a correlation coefficients of 0 indicate no linear relationship. The next is question number 1E, what do you mean by the basic feasible solutions? So इसको मैक्सिमम 2 ही पॉइंट में लिखना है आपको। A basic feasible solution which is denoted as BFS is a solution to the linear programming problems that satisfies all constraints, is non-negative and has a most m non-zero variables where m stand for the number of constraints. Point number 2, a basic feasible solution is called degenerate if at least one of its basic variables is equals to 0. So यहाँ पे आप इमेज भी ऐड कर सकते हो। The next one is question number 1F, define slack and variables. So आज जानते हैं slack variable क्या होता है। So point number 1, a variable is or a variable added to less than or equal to a constants. Point number 2, to convert inequality into an equations and represent the amount of slacks or unused resources. Next, surplus variables. Point number 1, a variable subtracts from a greater than or equal to constants. Point number 2, to convert the inequalities into equations and represent the amount of surplus or excess beyond the minimum requirements. Say question number 1G, give the standard form of linear programming problems. So आइए इसको किस तरह से लिखना है. 2 mark question के लिए the standard form of linear programming problems, which is shortly known as LPP, require the objective functions to be either maximizations or minimization problem, all constant to be equalities with non-negative right hand side, and all decision variable to be non-negative. To convert the constant, slack variables are added in case of that is known as less than equals to in case of inequalities, and surplus and artificial variables are introduced which is known as greater than equals to और inequalities. So यहाँ पे एक LPP का प्रॉब्लम दिया हुआ है. So this is known as your objective functions, minimum or minimization of z that equals to 3x plus 5x2 plus 4x3, and यहाँ पे constant दिया हुआ है. These are the constants 1, 2 and 3 and these are non-negative variables. So यही हो गया आपका standard form of LPP. Next questions. Question number 1H. What do you mean by unbalanced transportation problem and how it is balanced? So इस क्वेश्चन को इस तरह से लिखना है. Unbalanced transportation problem is defined as a situation in which supply and demand are not equals. So in these cases, a dummy row or a dummy column is added to this type of problems depending upon the necessities to make it balanced problems. So in case of balanced problem, the supply equals to demand. Point number 3, the problem can then be addressed in the same way as the balanced problem. Moving to next one. Next one is question number 1I. Question number 1I. What do you mean by decision making under uncertainties? So इसका आंसर ये है. Decision making under uncertainty is the process of making choices when the outcomes are unknown and their possibilities cannot be calculated due to a lack of information on unpredictable factors. Point number 2, in statistical analysis, individuals and managers must use their experience, judgment, strategy like decision tree or Monte Carlo simulations to navigate the situations where the results are unpredictable. So यही answer. The last questions we have question number 1J. So what are the different Q disciplines? So मैंने यहाँ पे 4 Q discipline यहाँ पे mention किया हुआ है. The first one is fast in fast out, which is shortly known as FIFO. Second one is last in fast out, which is shortly known as LIFO. And third one we have priority queuing, and the last one is random selection. So in case of FIFO, the simplest and the most common discipline where customers are served in order to they arrive. Second one is in case of LIFO, customers are served in reverse order of their arrival. This is often used in application like a stack of plates. Then third one we have priority queuings where customers are served based on their priority levels. Higher priority customers are served before the lower priority one. Last one is that is known as customers are selected for the service in a random order as opposed to predetermined one. So ये है शॉर्ट क्वेश्चंस. क्वेश्चन नंबर 1A से लेके 1J तक. वीडियो अगर आपको अच्छा लगे, काइंडली लाइक, शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब दिस चैनल. थैंक यू फॉर वॉचिंग दिस वीडियो.